other social channels as well, Chloe.
Yeah. Sorry everyone, I'm sick of my voice already.
No, there's more to come as well. If you haven't seen the TikTok channel, make sure you follow. There's more to come. There's some bloopers hanging around, definitely. So what's the vibe in your team right now? What are you proud of?
We're busy, we're really busy. I think we're being a bit louder, we're being a bit more direct, we're asking much more direct questions and we're asking more of people. So it's a bit of a change for us. We're being a lot bolder in our communication, so hopefully everyone feel and see that. And we're trying to be a bit more fun. So hopefully you're seeing some of us do some silly things on TikTok with your help there.
We've got a lot planned. There's a lot on the list that gets crossed out. That's all I can say. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, some of our ideas are a bit off.
Yeah, they are. I'll do that, but not that. Okay, Matt, we're going to come on to you now. Actually, yeah, funny enough, you have put people on TikTok.
I think I was the one saying no, wasn't I?
Yes.
Against my will.
That was it, yeah.
Well, that's what that grumpy photo did. It's showing the system. The most visible man there.
There's a TikTok in that. There's a TikTok in that. We'll make it happen. We'll come on to the question for you. What's changed about how we approach income and fundraising?
Everything.
Yeah.
That's it. Listen, for 120 years we've relied on the sport bar industry and people in it. We're missing some really kind of crucial building blocks. So when Ellen talks about raising awareness and building trust, I need those things for my team to be able to then exploit that and turn that into revenue generators. So we've moved on, I think lots of charities have moved on from raising money, shaking teams, and the kind of level of fundraising we see. Really important. So don't get me wrong, things like Christmas jumper there, all these through the year are really important. If we're going to raise twice as much money in the next 5 years, I've not done it in the last 10 years, so we've got to do something really different. And it's not that we dismiss anything that we've been doing for the last 10 years, because it's been really important, building relationships with the industry, and we're kind of getting to the point where we're creating sustainable income. But if we're going to raise twice as much money to support significantly more people, because we know it's unmet need, we've got to do something differently. So that's my focus right now. And the reason for the change of job title and everything else is about focusing on some big conversations with the industry about how they play their part to make it possible for us to achieve things that not just that we want to do. The reason we've got this big ambition is to do things that we know we need to do for them, and that's what's changed. That's a really different approach to the way it was when I started 10 years ago.
Right, okay. I mean, that's the thing, I think, with social media now and being more loud and proud about the way you do things, you can see. But I'm intrigued to sort of ask you what your team are doing that people might not see, because we see lots of it. We see the breakfasts and the Christmas jump day. But what are things that your team are doing that we might not see?
So it won't surprise anybody sitting here to know that I often say fundraising is bloody hard work. It's really tough to raise money from anybody, from an individual or a business. It's really, really tough. It's a tough gig. So behind the scenes with that, there's a load of relationship building connections. There's some of the business development team here and fundraising teams here today. And there are two sides to it. Firstly, you've got to build that connection, build the trust, as Ellen says, build the awareness. No one's going to give you money without knowing what the charity does and the impact that money delivers. They trust us when they give us money to deliver something with it, to actually achieve something good, because that's the reason people donate. There's a science to fundraising, none of people know that, there really is the science and psychology behind it. So the stuff that goes on behind the scenes is really important, and the team are out every day. People are DTing around the road every day, visiting businesses, talking to them about what their issues are, listening really carefully to what the health and wellbeing issues are in the industry. What are you facing? That's the change in fundraising, because fundraising is traditionally, we've got this massive problem, we need your money. What we're trying to say is, we're trying to partner with the industry by saying, what are your problems? How can we adapt our services to be able to deliver more and deliver better? And then we support, if we do good for you, will you support us by giving us some money? And that's a conversation that people don't see. So when everybody's wearing a Christmas jumper or raffling a pen there, or when we're trudging through the Sahara or climbing a mountain with industry leaders, the stuff that goes on behind the scenes to get to that point, that's our job. The other is fun.
Yeah, the Sahara was fun, was it?
This room came
Yeah, I think we've had the privilege of following you guys around, following a team, outreach team around with a camera, actually going to visit these places. And like I say, getting that buy-in is absolutely key with and actually listening to the industry Martin, we'll come to you. I've got here, look, the new...
Yeah, I'll think about my name for a long time. Yeah, I won't be as long as you can.
Yeah, whatever, as long as you can. That's it. I like that. Yeah, the new one. Right. Okay. So you knew it, Ben. What drew you to the charity, and what stood out so far?
Well, first to say, because Matt mentioned this picture, I was so new. I'm looking a bit kite in that picture because I didn't get the glitzy.
You look very cheerful.
Glitzy shot. Well, I don't know how I was cheerful to be playing football for 3 hours.
Oh, is that what you
sat in a corridor and have your photo now.
I never did that too well. Maybe. I guess that's what you do, isn't it?
But you know, that's part of the reason I've come here to join a community like this that just gets involved and does stuff. As I've been in the sector a long time, health and wellbeing type charities for the community is my background, and when I heard about this opportunity to couple that with the industry that I always thought I'd end up working with as a kid, this is what industry I thought I'd work in as an accountant, still not doing anything useful. So to put those two things together was a dream really, and I've heard about this organisation for a long time. It looks great, it's been very exciting, so really excited to be joining at this time.
Yeah, long may it continue. We've got the legacy of support, future of impact. I wanted to talk about that next really. What does finance driving impact actually mean?
Oh,
There we go.
that's a question.
What's some questions? Got some good ones.
Get yourself a coffee. Well, I keep it simple. To some extent, Rachel touched on these with some of the stats earlier. So talking about for every pound spent, the impact of having mental health or prevention adds a further element to increase the value you get from every pound you spend. And that's our job really. We've got to work out where's the maximum impact we can deliver on this community. And the variety is huge. The options we can be taking are massive. We need to really focus in and make sure every pound that we spend has a purpose to it. We've got a plan, we've got the data and insights, and we are following something that tells us we're doing the best we can for this community. So that's going to really help us focus our efforts much more going forward.
It's nice to know there is some methods to the madness. We've seen the Sahara, we've seen all the challenges. I think the other we were all together at the mini museum or whatever, and people were trying to sign people up for industry leading challenges there and then. That's what it is. But yeah, making sure that it's all driven behind data and it's sort of.
There is science behind this.
Yeah.
You know, we're not unique.
Yeah.
There's things out there, there are patterns and behaviours and things that we can learn from. It's important that we use that to help drive all our decisions. So that's the way we do the best we can.
Indeed. Okay. Rachel, it's your turn. So you assumed the role of CEO last year. A very broad question. How's it been so far? And what have you been focusing on?
Yeah, so it's probably fair to say that I assumed the role of CEO and probably the biggest kind of data transformation that it could possibly be. So we made a seismic decision, 12 months before that in the kind of transfer of our care and village services. So overseeing that kind of divestment programme, so coming into that has clearly been a significant focus. And I'm really interested and steep learning curve. But I was juggling that with then what the future of the charity needs to look like. So thinking about people change management programs, our strategy for the future, and putting and laying some sort of core foundations in place. We have only just got together as a new senior leadership team, so that transition from old to new, that kind of legacy, bold ambition bit. So I've been juggling all of that, but obviously really, really pleased that we are so now close to that kind of completion of the divestment programme, which is why this event is really timely, because it's a marker in the sand for us that we are new, we are refreshed, and we are focused totally on the industry and its needs.
We've had the pleasure of having this chat, I think, also the Calico recently, a very similar sort of challenge. It was us, wasn't it? And your passion just comes through in waves, and obviously earlier on when we heard from you. But I wanted to ask you what the highlights have been, and then what the challenges are. Put me on the spot here. The highlights and the challenges, if you can switch that. This is what we do. We go off piece sometimes. What have been the highlights and what have been the main challenges, would you say?
Well, I think actually securing the role in the first place was a really a massive highlight.
It was quite a rigorous recruitment process, quite rightly so. So I do feel I've got further strides. But that kind of moving from a health and wellbeing director role into this role, I really enjoy that kind of helicoptering over of everything. And I've learned a lot about other parts of the organisation that I might not have been as involved with. So I've thoroughly enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed bringing this new team together, and there's lots for us to do. We have a lot of work to do to just kind of get our ways of working into place. Do you see challenges?
Yeah, what are the main challenges?
Truthfully, the biggest challenge is just managing that transition from old to new, and trying to really consider everybody in that, because we've got different people internally in the organisation that are in different situations, and trying to navigate our way around that and make sure that we are looking after everybody has been a bit of a challenge, but I think we've tried to take a very considered and deliberate approach.
And finally, I've got one more for you before we move on. I know, I'm really quizzing you. What would you say your leadership style is, and who's inspired you the most?
Okay, so I think my natural sort of leadership style is very serving. So I feel like as a leader, I am here to serve. So ultimately, that means serving our community. So our automotive industry is a strong starting point. But actually, everybody that I work with, so the senior leadership team and all of the colleagues that I am responsible for. So I really do feel that. So that is leading with my ears, listening a lot, taking on feedback, actually also leading with compassion and empathy. And sometimes that can get a bit confused with not being prepared to make decisions and sometimes take the hard line. So I have been quite clear that in my leadership, I will always try to do the right thing. And over time, I've realised it's not always about doing the right thing, it's about doing it for the right reason. So that's always something that I come back to and say, is this the right, it's not just about the right thing, it's about doing it for the right reason and making sure that you communicate that to people. So definitely a sort of servant leader. I'd also say that I'm very people focused, thinking about change, thinking about the future, and then how that impacts on people together.
There we go. Okay, well, I think in time we should come back and ask you guys what the leadership style is. There we go, moving on. Okay. Sarah, head of HR, I've got a question for you. Obviously, leading on from Rachel said all about people. How would you describe the people at Ben?
Pretty resilient, considering what the last 18 months has been like, and they've been asked to step up to the challenge, which they have passionately done, embracing our values, if you like, and I still feel like the new girl, really. Martin is the new boy, but I only came into this organisation for 6 months to lead the people transition. And I come from a commercial background where it only matters how much money goes in the till, and I made a conscious effort to get away from that. And since I've joined Ben, I'm just in awe of the jobs that people do here and the value that they add. And that's the big thing in the world at the moment, I think, which is amazing. And I think that, especially after today, really, I think everyone's just ready to move on through that change and that transformation, which has been a bit of a journey. It's a long time getting there. So
I get the feeling, obviously, whenever we sort of got together, it's each and every person trying to make a difference is a huge thing. I'm talking about your background, but perhaps you were part of a large machine where that wasn't always the case. This was quite rewarding. Ellen, I'm going to come back to you with a challenging question. Again, where are you going to make the biggest difference this year?
I think everything's changed.
Okay.
So we're coming out at the end of the massive internal change. We're obviously launching a new vision for the industry. So hopefully everyone will feel a very different then. We are totally focused on the automotive industry now. So there is no distraction. We are moving forward with automotive. So I think the biggest change from us is, I said it earlier, we're going to be bolder, braver. We want to ask more, we want to listen more to the industry. What do you need from us? What do you need to hear? And we're going to front some difficult things. Like you heard the stats from Rachel earlier about we're losing 2 people a week. If we don't front those things, we're not going to talk about it. And if we don't talk about it, we're not going to change it. So I think you'll see us being a lot bolder with what we're telling the industry, and you should see some exciting stuff. But also want to show the amazing work that staff behind Ben did. I think Ben, at a period in time, was a bit of a front, and nobody knew who was behind Ben. We didn't really show our staff, so I'm on a mission to show the amazing work that the staff do, and you recognise all their faces, and demystify some of the stuff that we do. So picking up the helpline isn't scary. You know what's going to happen when you pick up the helpline, and we're going to work to demystify a lot of the stuff that we do.
And hearing from, we hear the powerful stories that we just saw in the video at the start, but then also hearing your stories and hearing how people actually work is only going to bolster that. About your team, so head of awareness and experience, what's one myth about your team you'd love to bust? Busting.
I think there's a few marketing people in the room, and I think it would be the same for everybody. We're not here to make things pretty and make things look nice and do that. There's a psychology, the same that the fundraising, we have to understand that psychology of fundraising, we have to understand the psychology of impact, so we can message that, we can tell people about that. The challenge for us as a team is we have to understand everything that goes on with the business, because if we're going to communicate that externally, we have to know it, we have to understand it. So my team have a challenge to get to know everything that goes on. So that's a bit of a myth, but I think you probably see us out and about. We won't always look like we're having a great time. We do. We didn't just arrive though. We've been here for 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I think, the work that goes into these things is, I love being here, I love doing this kind of stuff, but a lot of work went into this, so it's probably,
Absolutely, indeed. A lot of work went into this. I can actually testify to that. So, Matt, I'm going to come back to you in terms of you were talking about that, and I think I was out with Sarah the other week by the outreach team, and she said a very similar thing to you about it's not about just shaking a bucket, but like you have some money anymore. So, in terms of, with that in mind, where's the income growth coming from next?
I think the changes, I guess, strategically, more kind of fundraising challenges, there's more of the kind of campaigns that we've been doing with Christmas Sunday and events with breakfast and things like that. But there is a limit to how much of people's calendar you can fill with things like that. It's already hard enough to get businesses to say, yeah, we do one of those things, but we also support cancer research, we do this, we do this, we do this. So you can't dominate. So it is about kind of understanding the relationship and understanding how far you can push, but maximising the opportunities you do get. So that kind of fundraising piece is really important. And then I guess, as I said earlier, the do these days, then how do you do that strategically? So how do I get, I can say it to the nation's not in the room, how do I get our partner Lavery from BCA to agree to give us £1 for every vehicle that goes through her auctions, which is £2 million a year? Now that would dramatically do that. It's not, I haven't really started that conversation.
That was a bombshell there. What a great idea.
But it's things like that. So how do we, and Martin and I talk about this quite a bit, how do you crack the kind of volume metric? We already do that. Lots of the OEMs, the manufacturers and the national sales companies still give us a contribution for every new vehicle that's registered in the UK. They've been doing that since 1989. And I often say, and this won't be news, and we say this at the board before, the people who signed those deals are dead, pretty much. They signed in 1989 when they were leading the big brands in the UK. And they're dead or long retired. And actually, that scheme particularly still raises £1.5 million a year for us. You can't replicate that because you'd never be able to do that nowadays in the global industry. It just wouldn't happen. So what's the next thing? When that gradually able to work, which it will do over time, how do I replace that with something else? But that something else has to be big. And it's not about asking people, of course, I would often say, if you're going to somebody for £5 grand, that's for 50, because the punchline's the same. You may as well just go for a bigger number. But we've got to be really strategic in saying, actually, how do you find something that offers value? So how do we get things like Ben Life, our new health and wellbeing solution out into the industry, as a way of saying, actually, you give us a bit, we'll give you a bit. How do we work in, that's what they call partnerships. Partnerships are key to everything. How do we work together with the industry to provide real value so that it's not just a one-way street, you're not just giving us cash and then we occasionally tell you how we spend it. How do you give us cash knowing we're going to do some real good with it? And then how do we show you that we do really, really good things with that? But also how do we help you to crack, to Rachel's point earlier, how do we support health and wellbeing in your business and in our industry to ensure the industry is still strong going forward? Because the global pressures of the industry really, they're in the news all the time. Who knows what else is going to happen to Trump and everybody else? So you've got to be really resilient, and your people need to be super resilient. So how do we give that value and convince people that the value is worth money?
And you kind of got to answer your question in terms of what your biggest focuses are. So in terms of the challenges that you've got coming up, can you give us an idea of what we've got coming up?
I think people can often think that charity is quite a straightforward conversation with people. It's just about getting people to understand your mission and to support it. It's really competitive.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just going to be honest with you. We compete against every other charity in the country. When I'm trying to get, or our team are trying to get a business to support us as charity of the year or something like that, we're up against Cancer Research, we're up against British Heart, we're up against the Teenage Cancer Trust, we're up against, the hospice down the road. It's a really competitive landscape, and nobody should be under any illusion that charities aren't businesses. Every pound I raise and my team raises pays for what we do. It pays for people, it pays for the impact, and it helps people in our industry. The challenge is that actually it's often hard to get that message across to people and to compete against bigger charities with bigger budgets. We look at, we talk about our awareness being 1 in 6 and you want it to be 1 in 3. Look at how many people, everybody in this room has always heard of Cancer Research and they've donated to them through Tesco's and all sorts of other things. We don't have that traction. We're in a narrow audience because we're in the automotive industry, kind of niche, but we deliver a non-niche support service to a niche industry. You can get everything you can get, pretty much. Most things you can get from us, you can get from somebody else. The key is convincing people that the importance of coming to a single source to get that stuff, and bringing a team, most of you are here today, managing people's caseload and holding people together and putting their arms around people. There's real value to that. There's a challenge of communicating. We've never been able to write back on the fact packet what Ben does. But we're probably in a better place now to do it than ever before. But that's what we need to do. We need to be able to convince people really quickly, and for people to really understand that when they give us money, we can deliver impact.
Indeed, that members of that brilliant team are going to be waiting on the other side of that hill to have lots of chats with lots of people. So that's going to be great after this. Martin, we'll come back to you with another doozy of a question. It's what are your top priorities right now?
Well, when you listen to some of these things that Matt's just outlined in terms of the challenges, it's my job to help navigate the path through to balancing the duty of the goals that we set out today, raising awareness, driving impact, and driving our income. Those things link into each other, but they're not directly related. So we're not a business. It's not like if we sell more services, we'll have more money. These things have to grow, but they don't grow necessarily aligned with each other. My job is to try to sustainably map this out so that we can constantly move forward while making sure we're fit for purpose for today, but also for the years that come. So we've got to make sure we spend every pound well. But the key within that is we also need to still remain agile. So we need to put those foundations, the framework that we can confidently move forward, but not restrict the ability to adapt. The world is changing, what we're going to learn is changing. We need to be able to move quickly and respond, but give them the confidence to do that because we've got the finances in place, we all understand and we're making informed decisions about it. So that's my key goal really.
Here we go. And we saw some statistics earlier. And how are you going to measure the impact moving forward with that?
Well, impact is a big word.
Yeah.
The charity sector is about impact, but it's a very hard thing to actually measure. It's a much more of a long-term piece. So, for strategic periods, this period 4 or 5 years we're heading into now, or more generational, we're talking about prevention, for example. So it's not something you just do something and then the impact happens. And that's not outcomes. And that's the place we're going to move really into first. So we've been, like most charities, really good at explaining how many people we're helping, various ways we're helping them and the volume in which we do that, which is a great piece of information. But we're not here to help more people or deliver more services. We're here to achieve outcomes for this community. So measuring the outputs and then the outcomes of what we do is what will be driving us forward. And if we focus on those things, we know we're a better job for this community, and that will lead over time to that better, bigger impact that we're going to have. So we're going to keep doing the other stuff, learn more, dive deeper, get more data, and then be really led by those things to, again, be agile and adapt what we're doing based on the outcomes we're achieving. So that's the goal.
Amazing. There's a lot of questions there. How do you measure impact? Again, put you on the spot here. I love this job. This is great. Just put them on the spot and they're like, oh, okay. Literally with a light shining on us. Ella, we'll come back to you with what's something new or surprising that you're trying? Everyone else to bed.
I think new, we are going to be asking our partner to work much closer with our partners. So Matt has just described how we're going to partner with businesses across the industry. But we also need those businesses, and I want to work closely with those businesses of how they can support us and their supply chains. So we talk a lot to businesses around they wouldn't exist without their customer base and they wouldn't exist without the supplier base. So it's the conversation around that business supporting that ecosystem. So are they telling their customers about them if they're B2B customers? Are they telling their suppliers about them? Are they encouraging those people in their networks to support us, to get involved and to raise awareness as well? So it's kind of using those networks and widening and asking for support in doing that. That's something we're going to be pushing a lot more. And then new, I think, Rachel mentioned it earlier about benefits. We want to do more community stuff. We know that getting the community together isn't only beneficial for the industry's health and well-being. Everyone loves these events, but we have to make them worthwhile. We have to make them worth people's time. So building on those communities, so really getting engagement, getting people together and enjoying themselves really and seeing the fun side. We do really serious stuff, but we need to enjoy it ourselves too, and that's generally the best networking happens. We can ask you for a lot more in the marathon.
Absolutely, Ben Fest is going to be there. We're all going to be able to check out there with the band playing. What's the one thing your team can never lose sight of? What's the one truth, as it were, that your team can never lose sight of? With all of that going on, then you've got to do it.
We can ask questions as the industry, but if people don't know about them, they can't donate to us and they can't ask for support. So ultimately, all of the stuff we're doing is great. If people don't know about them, we can't help them and they can't help us. So yeah,
Just pure awareness.
everybody in the industry needs to know about it. Everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You heard it. Seriously.
Everyone.
That's on you, lot, I think. Obviously, I'm joking. No pressure, yeah, exactly. Matt, I'm going to come back to you. What's one thing every Ben supporter wants to feel, do you think?
So I guess they want to feel like their support is making a difference. And that sounds like a really easy throwaway thing to say, and it's the science behind the dopamine effect of giving to charity. Of course, so many people do it, and Britain has a long history of strongly supporting charities. We're one of the biggest givers in the world. Apart from Americans, we did it for slightly different reasons. They're all libraries and hospitals. But it's to know that when they're donated, that we'll do something good with their money. We won't just kind of throw it away. And there are lots of ways to do that, and it changes over time. The amount of money that we spend on, when we're growing and spending money on awareness and marketing, all the important things we need to do. It's hard sometimes for people to understand that that's an important contribution. So we're spending more of their pound on doing those things. They shouldn't feel like we're not delivering our objectives, because they are our three strategic objectives, and everything possible in the charity, nothing really is free. That's a big change. So I think whatever we do to achieve our objectives is support more people in the industry, and as Martin said, that all these things are kind of connected, and they're not always directly. Is a good use of their investment in us, really. We should see that as an investment in the belief that we'll do something good with their money, and we need to be able to show that back.
Yeah, it must be the biggest challenge, because absolutely, as people, we want to know where it's going. When that £10 leaves your hand, not that it's cash anymore, but yeah, you do actually want to know where it's going. What excites you most about where Ben is heading?
Well, I haven't been around for 10 years. And working with Rachel for the past 8, I think we're finally getting to the point where we can do what we wanted to do for quite some time. I think as Rachel said, the biggest decision with trustees, Steve and the team trustees, biggest decision we've made, the biggest pivot in Ben's life for the past 72 years. It was 72 years ago we got the care business. And I think the opportunity for us to do so much more by working in our industry over the next 5, 10, 20, whatever years, I'm not thinking about 20, but the next period of time is really exciting and really motivating, because we've been leading up to this for a long time. Rachel and I have been banging the health and wellbeing, everybody in this room actually, and Ben team banging health and wellbeing for so long, but we've been part of a bigger organisation. Now we're a single focused charity, really focused back on where we started back in 1905, 1908, supporting people in the motor industry. That's really motivating, because we know that what we do is great, and people in this room that support people in the industry deliver some incredible relationships and conversations that really help people to move forward with their lives, and we know we're really good at that. Really good at that. And I say to a couple of people this morning, we're really good when things are really bad, but we also want to be really good when things are not quite so bad, and we can help to help with preventative stuff. So that's really motivating. And it's not, as you can see from my photo, I'm not the most jolly man in the world. I'm not the softest and fluffiest guy in the world, because my job is to raise money. I don't see fluff in that, I hate fluffy charity. I've been more emotionally engaged with people since I joined Ben, and never also seen those videos earlier. Are people where you know the story and where we know the difference? That's the most basic.
Indeed, we've been privileged to actually help put together a lot of those videos, and it is sometimes funny enough, the guys that work for us, then the editors, they're so moved by it. I've got to give them a moment, because it's quite a tough job, but it's amazing, and also just sort of hosts everything that you guys actually do.
It's the storytelling, isn't it? So we're just talking about supporters feeling like they're making a difference. I can, and my team can talk day in, day out about the difference we make, and give you stats all the time, but seeing Clive on there, knowing he's still going after a couple of years of us supporting him, despite the fact he's got, terminal stage 4 cancer, and knowing where he was at the beginning of his journey when he came to Ben, and how difficult things were for him, and how he's thrived and advocated for them in the past couple of years as his health has improved and stabilised. That's impact. And they say it far better than we do.
Indeed. Well said. Martin, I'm going to come back to you about that word finance. It's a word that I don't know, sort of splits the room a little bit, I think. What do you wish more people understood about finance, especially in this industry, in this business or charity?
Yeah, absolutely. I got into charities because you weren't focused on that bottom line anymore. You were focused on delivering impact to people, and that's the motivation. But I know most people think finance are just there, get excited about saying no when people want to do something. So no, you can't do that. No, it's not the budget, you can't have it, you can't do it. That's our motivation in life. And it isn't, but someone has to play that role. As in, Matt's just talked about how hard it is to get that pound that everybody speaks to, and they want to know what's happening to it. So we need to make it a little bit harder for us to spend the pound as well, so those things are a little bit more balanced out. And that way we make better decisions. And that's our job, and it's because that way we know that actually with the debate, the different personalities around the table to tease out the right solution will make better use of that pound and will deliver a better outcome, which is those stories that you just touched on again on those screens, which is the same motivation for the whole of the finance team. That's why we're all here too. We just don't get to see it in quite the same way, but it's the motivations there, and that's why we can be a little bit obstructive at times, but hopefully positive at the same time. That's the real motivation.
You've sort of answered it a little bit there, but I'm going to push. What's your favourite part of your role so far?
It's not so much about that, although it is around the outcome where you get to the end. Coming to anywhere new is always a challenge to understand things, but That's what drives me. It's like a puzzle. It's like having a piece of a puzzle turned upside down on a table in your box. You don't know what it looks like. And you're gradually turning bits over and seeing how many of they all start to join up and connect, and you'll start building up a picture. And that's what I've been doing, and I'm really enjoying that. And then as we progress through this big period of change, it's then taking that picture, whatever it is, this bit like this picture behind us here, and taking us from that picture to that picture, because that's again what hopefully I can bring to the conversations around how we can change and adapt and improve the things that we're doing to make the better version of ourselves, to do the best that we can. And that's what I started with. Well, I can get away with being new.
Yeah, we're going to see. I can't wait to have this chat again in about a year's time. How are you getting on? Yeah, I'm still there. No. Sarah, I'm going to come back to you, if that's okay, with another people question. Yeah, shock, being HR. I did my finance one. I'm done with the finance questions. We're away from that. What's helping our people thrive, and what still needs work?
Yeah, I think, and we've touched on this already, knowing what the priorities are, being really clear about that, and I think everyone's got to understand how that cascades down into their role, so that they feel that they're adding that really important value, and that does go hand in hand with kind of job satisfaction as well. We need to invest in our people, leadership, right down to the people who keep the engine room running, you know, the administrators that we just can't live without, everyone. We need to invest in all of that, learning and development. But we've got a real opportunity now as we kind of move through this transition to that smaller organisation, certainly initially. We've got an opportunity to make this a great place to work and to be an employer of choice. So I have loads of ideas. I'd love to be sitting here in a year's time saying, look at the things we've done, and everyone's, you know, really happy to work here. But we also need to understand what everyone wants who is working here, and, you know, listen and take that feedback, and it's just a really exciting opportunity. So, you know, people want to stay, and people are queuing up to join.